But there was something in my life where he was letting me know it's time to come back. And I don't know how to explain it better than that, other than a couple of my friends got shot, a couple of different things happened, and and really, I finally heard God saying, "Come home while you still can."
Hey everybody, I want to welcome you to another episode of the Other Side of the Story podcast. And man, today I'm so excited because I have a personal friend, a spiritual son in ministry. Our lives have been interconnected for literally since 2006. Is that right, Bishop? 2006? 2004. For years we have been connected. I've learned so much from this man and his wife, and I'm just thrilled, man. You're going to learn today about this man's story, because we at the Other Side of the Podcast Story believe everybody has a story, not just that you've lived it, but to inspire, to motivate, to encourage, and to help you. So today we got that kind of guest. I'm going to give him a proper introduction. Bishop Dorian Morgan is the lead pastor, the Restoration Station Christian Fellowship Church. I'm going to say Edgewater, New Jersey. I always say Burlington, but Edgewater, New Jersey for 19 years. He's married to Dr. Joy Morgan. They've been married for 28 years. So I'm going to make sure I got that right. That in itself is an accomplishment. Been married 28 years. He's a lawyer, owns his own law practice, law office. He's on a trustee. He's a treasurer of the Rowan College of Burlington, New Jersey. He oversees a church in Pakistan, y'all, which is outgrown the house they were meeting in. And also, I love this about Bishop Dorian, is that he cares about leadership and he cares about his community. He started a oversight for pastors and leaderships to bring people together, y'all. He connects people in his area of community and even really around the world. And he became a bishop. Literally, if you're not a church person, bishop means he's an overseer. He's climbed the ladder because of his faithfulness, his integrity, his character, his knowledge, his wisdom. And we're just so excited. I keep talking about him because I know him that well. Bishop Dorian Morgan, thank you for being with us.
Bishop, I am so excited and honored to be with you. You are, if they don't know, my bishop. I know at our church Restoration Station, now they say I'm their bishop, but we all claim you and love you and just appreciate you and Sister Lisa, how you poured into our lives. And it just, words can't even express how we feel. So thank you for bringing me to your podcast. Congratulations to you that you are doing this, the next stage, the next phase of your life. I can't wait to see where this goes.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Our connection, our love for each other is so awesome. I thank God for your family. But so when people look at Bishop Dorian Morgan, they can say, man, that guy's a success, law practice, long-term marriage, long-term in ministry. That's not the norm. 19 years at the same church. Matter of fact, you started the church literally out of nothing. Just the accomplishments you have done, Bishop, is really enough in itself. But then I started thinking, you have a story. You have a story that's gotten you to right where you are now, and your story is not over. Greater things are coming. But I just want you to kind of share, really go back to the beginning a little bit, because I read about you. This man was 4 years old, y'all, singing in a choir at 4. I mean, that's just amazing to me. And just kind of talk on that for a second of you're brought up in a great influence of a mother and a father, and you're singing at 4. So just kind of go from there and tell us what happened in that journey so far.
Absolutely. And I can't get away from that when I talk about who I am, because so much of who I am came from my mom and my dad. In Burlington, New Jersey area, everybody knows Deacon Norman Morgan and Deaconess Bertha Morgan. That's their titles. But mom is a phenomenal singer, worshiper, worship leader. She has, I don't know, probably now 4 or 5 recorded CDs of her own.
Awesome.
So singing and music was just always around the house. It was just a part of what we did. I am, I guess, the fourth of their 5 children. So I got 3 older sisters. So they were all singing. They were taking piano lessons. They were doing all of that as I'm growing up 1, 2, 3 years old, and I'm chasing them around. And that's really what started me singing. And when there was a children's choir at the church, and I was 4 years old, and I wanted to sing. So they let me get up there, and I started singing with the choir. But the what's been sewed into me by my parents, my dad, who is just a phenomenal man of God, husband. Now they celebrated 60. I think they just celebrated 60 years. And just father, man of God. I mean, I could just go on and on about him too. But spiritually, you have been to me what he has been since I was born. And God has just graced my life with mentors, with fathers, with examples, encouragers. It's just been phenomenal. So I can't take credit for who I am. I pass that credit on to those around me who have given me just such a great base and a great example to follow.
That's so good, because the impact and the influence of family cannot be underestimated.
Yeah.
I mean, I know everybody doesn't have, a solid home like you did, spiritual foundation like you did, but obviously it impacted your life. So for a minute, speak on how you see now your role, your stage of life for a minute before we keep going back. We'll go back and forth. Absolutely. But now that what you learned through that, and you see guys in your church, because I know you have a men's ministry, you see guys in church without fathers, wasn't brought up in ideal situations in the sense of a mother and father, whatever. How is that, how you were brought up, cause you now to be that kind of leader with men? What do you see yourself as, and what you're trying to do to help men be healed, or whatever it is, man? Just talk on that.
Absolutely. As a result, I do see so many men who have not had the examples that I've had, and the support system that I've had. And God has called me to be that to them. As a result, as you said, we have our men's ministry. We have a group called the Young Men of Destiny Mentorship Program that I started. Now it's probably about 13 years ago for boys 12 to 18, because so many kids now just don't have what I had growing up, and I know it's vital. So therefore, if they don't have it naturally, God said he wants me to be it spiritually, be a father to them. It's amazing. I haven't told anybody to call me dad, but so many of them actually call me dad. You know, just because they know, listen, when you're doing good, I'm pushing, I'm helping you find jobs, I'm helping do it. But when you're messing up, they know I'll call and say, hey man, what are you doing? Let's get back on track. Let's do it a different way. Let's pray about it. What can I do? Because that's the kind of stuff my dad did for me. I mean, anytime I was in trouble, and we'll probably get to that in a minute, there was a lot of trouble in my life. But dad would help. But his first question to me always be, so what's your plan not to get back here again? And that was always something. So as I'm talking to the guys and young ladies, I got daughters in the church that, so I'm going to be there. If you're in trouble, call. We're going to show up. Either I get there or I get somebody that can be there. But as a church family, we're going to come around you. But just know one of the questions is going to be, what can we do to keep you from getting back to this spot again?
Man, I love that question, man. That question, I know somebody's watching or listening right now. That question is no doubt spoken to them where they're at, because they might be sitting in a situation because of choices or decisions. What a great question to ask yourself. And you leading people. I'm going to say this one thing. I love what you're doing generationally. And I think people that are listening and watching again can learn a lot from you about how you're trying to reach back. Isn't that important to do?
That is so important. Bishop, everything in the Bible speaks generationally. God always talks about, to your children's children, or to the third and fourth generation, or, it's always about not just you. You don't live just for you, but you should be living a life so that people that come behind you have a better life, that they can start shoulders and go further and be better than you. And it only comes from you training them and showing them the good, the bad, and the ugly. Don't hide it. I'm very transparent with my life of the bad decisions I made and the things that could have done better. You know, I'll tell you the whole story so that you don't have to fall into the pitfalls that I fell into.
That's good. I'm glad you're saying that, because that leads me to something. So we're hearing your story, singing in the choir at 4, solid foundation of parents raising you, influencing you, impacting you spiritually, maturely, all those things. But then, even though that was great, you still made some decisions that got you on, because everybody can go, well, man, you know, Bishop Morgan had it made, man. He had it made at home. But you still made some choices and decisions growing up. So how did you start maybe getting off the path, if we can say it that way, and what led to that? Listen, and what did you learn from
it? It's funny. I always say this. My dad laughs. My dad was the smartest person in the world for 14 years of my life. And then he didn't know nothing.
Yeah.
For the next 7 years of my life. I don't know what happened around 14, 15. I started hanging. The easy thing for me, Bishop. I've been in the church. That you lived in my parents' house. You were going to church. But even in the church, there were people who were going to church, but not part of the church.
Yeah.
And I started hanging with this crowd. Yeah, we could play music, we could sing, but over. We were in the club. We were here. We were doing this. We were doing that. We were doing everything we thought we were big enough and bad enough to do, and just started making some really bad decisions. It just promiscuity, alcohol. I mean, just bad decisions. And then, thank God for His grace and mercy, I had a certain amount of intelligence because, again, my parents wouldn't let you not go to school, not go to church. So I had good grades. I had, you know, all these other things that helped me get into college. But man, then when I went away to college and parents aren't around, I lost my mind. I was the prodigal son out there living, you know, any which way I could. And, you know, that was as I look back, it was a dark time. And the truth of the matter is, I was actually trying to find the light. I just wasn't looking towards the light. I'm looking at my friends. I'm looking at, you know, we were traveling. We were doing all sorts of things, not going to school. I don't know how long I had to talk because I can tell you a whole story. They're excited now that I'm on the board of trustees of a college. Well, I got kicked out of Trenton State College.
Wow.
Academically dismissed. Because I didn't show up to school. I was partying. I was doing everything else. And for a year, they kicked me out until I finally, as the Bible says about the prodigal son, I came to myself and finally said, you know what? I can't keep living like this. Something has to give. And
let me stop you right there. That is so important. I don't want to rush past that.
No.
Because I believe people need to hear just going what you have just described your life as. Again, because a lot of times church is stereotype, right? People think, you know, church people are supposed to be perfect. You know, you were raised in a church family, Christian family, you're supposed to be perfect. But it just encourages me. Again, I always go back to people listening and watching this. Your story is amazing because, you know, we're all human beings.
Absolutely.
And we're all going to make some bad choices sometimes. So you made these choices, and there's so many things to get into there. You made these choices that got you going in a direction of a lifestyle that could really just have destroyed your life. So what do you feel like it was that inside you, this will help somebody, what brought you back to a place of how you were impacted as a child? What really started happening?
Man, I'm telling you, I am so glad. The Bible does say, train up a child in the way they should go, so when he's old, he will not depart from it. The word there for old is actually wise. So it doesn't mean that your kid's never going to get off track.
Right.
It just means that when they get some wisdom, when they finally start coming around, they're going to find their way back to the foundation. I was crazy. The funniest thing is I could be drunk and I'm telling people scriptures and we're talking about, you know, we're at the bar and for whatever reason, they're asking me like Christian questions and stuff. And because it was in me, there was just something, and God was keeping me and watching me and protecting me. I mean, I've been in places where bullets came right by. I mean, it was just a crazy time in my life. but the hand of God was on me. I know he had another plan for me. I want to let everyone know that he has a plan for you too. You just have to be willing to listen to his voice. And at some point, as you say, what happened to bring me back? I just heard the voice of God. I really heard him saying something to the effect of, time is running out. Now, I know his mercy endures forever, but there was something in my life where he was letting me know it's time to come back. And I don't know how to explain it better than that, other than a couple of my friends got shot, a couple of different things happened, and and really, I finally heard God saying, "Come home while you still can."
I'm so glad you're sharing that, because again, people that know you and people that are going to get to know you through this podcast can look at your life now and go, I'd have never known that. I'd have never, that's what I mean about the power of your story. I'd have never known you went through that. Know that's encouraging somebody. So you get to the point in college, you get back on the right track. So what brought you, because the next question I want to ask you is what caused you to turn to being a lawyer?
Well, here's the situation. In my freshman year of high school, I've always liked to argue. That's just me. So I was in class with my teacher's name is Rocco Vizzaco. I still remember his name, and every now and then I bump into him and just thank him. I was arguing with him. He said, "Mr. Morgan, I need you to stay after class." And I'm like, "Oh, I'm in trouble." So after class, he says, "Listen, I'm the advisor of the mock trial team. I want you to stay after, come see what it's about, and see if you want to be a part of it." So it was, the mock trial is in I don't know if it's, well, there is a national mock trial. So I know the state has one where schools have, it's set up where you could be an attorney, or you could be a witness, or, they got these little teams and you start to compete against other schools. And man, I loved it. I mean, I loved it. From the second year, I beat out juniors and seniors to be the head attorney on our team. And from then on, I said, I want to be an attorney. Now, again, the other side of the story is getting kicked out of college doesn't help you when you're applying for law school. So the first time I applied for law, I applied to 10 law schools and all 10 said no.
Wow.
Because of my past. But then I went to paralegal school, because at that point I was determined, I'm gonna do this. I went to paralegal school. I was a paralegal for 4 years and then reapplied to law school. And the 2 schools that I applied to, both of them said yes. So I just kept pushing, because at that point I knew I wanted to be an attorney. At that point, that it had been 10 years, but I had gotten off track somewhere in between. That's the other side of my story.
Well, that teaches us right there, 10 years, bro. And then what was, just help us, man. Help somebody. What was in your mentality, your makeup? What kept you coming back? Because a lot of us would just quit.
Yeah. Again, you know what? I'll give this to Dad. He is a don't quit kind of guy. I mean, I've seen him. He just pushes it almost like a machine. And he's taught me consistency. Just be consistent. Don't be different here or there. And if you persevere, you're going to make it. If you put your mind to it, do what you have to do, work hard, get help if you have to, get people around you, and whatever it takes, just keep your eye on the prize and persevere. And that has been, once I'm determined to do something, I take that from him, that just keep going. Even if you got to go slow. you can't run, walk. You can't walk, crawl. If you can't crawl, just drag yourself along, but keep moving towards your goals, so that at the end of the day, you're reaching them.
Well, that's really powerful. I mean, honestly, we all can go, I need to keep doing what I'm doing, or pressing toward whatever. Perseverance, consistency. That is so good. Yeah. So you become a lawyer, and you meet your wife at some point. So, marriage is something, you've been married 28 years. Speak on that, about becoming a married man. And at that time, I don't believe you had started the church. Is that correct?
Listen, my wife saved my life.
Okay.
God sent her to me at the end of my crazy period, if you will. And in fact, I don't know who's watching this, but I was in a relationship with someone else for 5.5 years.
Right.
I wasn't looking for anyone else, but God had her join the choir that I was playing for at the church. And we started talking. We were on a choir trip and started playing cards. Her mom was her partner. My sister was mine. And we just, all night, we're just playing cards. And something just said, I've just given you a gift. Now, me and my dad never talked about girls. I avoided any conversation. When I got home from that trip, I said, Dad, what do you do when you find the girl who's everything you think you need in life, but you're already with somebody? First thing my dad says, don't play games. If this is who you're supposed to be with, let the other girl go. You got to let her go right away. Don't play them both at the same time and all that. Don't start with this other girl until you let the other. So my wife, well, at the time, girlfriend, I guess you can, just got me so focused. We would talk about what we saw, vision, where we wanted to go, what we wanted to do, what it would take to get there. This is before I was law school. Remember, I hadn't gotten accepted in the law school at this point. So this was during that time when I was a paralegal. And she was one that helped me say, listen, if being an attorney is your dream, then we want to do whatever it takes to get there. And, one of the first conversations we had, don't ever call me drunk again. So that that was kind of it for me in alcohol. But she really helped me get focused. And man, since then, we have just been life partners in everything. I mean, she went to school to get her master's degree while we were newly married. And I was working. And then after that, she got done and she said, I think it's now time for you to go. And I went to law school for 4 years because I was married and working. So the law school I went to, Rutgers University Law School, had a night program, whereas the day students, most people go for 3 years. If you go part-time, you go for 4 years. So I went for 4 years married, working full-time job, and playing for 2 choirs at the church. So it was just a crazy time, but she totally supported me. And, we started building a life together, of making sure that whatever we do, it's all about what kind of impact do you have, making a difference in your family, in your community, in anybody you can touch. Make a difference in their life. Make sure that when you leave, they're better than when you came.
That's so good. You're just really putting out some great teaching of your life and what you are exemplifying by what you did.
Yes.
And that's doing a lot of perseverance, never quitting. And what you're teaching us is anything is possible.
Anything is
possible. Will you make the sacrifice, right? Because there are a lot of sacrifices y'all have made.
Oh,
and so you're in this now, and you get called by God to pastor a church. Now, first of all, you're married, you're a lawyer, school, education. Tell us about that. How'd that feel? How'd you know God was calling you to start a church literally out of nothing?
Bishop, that's a great question. And so at the time, we are married for, at that point, probably 5, 6, 7 years. I did get back I got into law school, and, I was nearing the end of law school, and, we had joined a different church, and God was just taking me on this journey. And at this other church, they said, you should go to this pastors and leaders conference that we know about, IPL, I think it was called IPLC or something, at a church called Faith World down in Orlando. We say, hey, let's go check it out. This is probably 2003. And we went to go check it out. And man, it was a great conference. And all of a sudden, we were in a lot of transition. I had an opportunity to go be a minister of music in Bermuda. I had a couple opportunities in Atlanta. We were trying to figure out where we were going to stay in New Jersey or go somewhere else. And this bishop got up there named Jeff Poole. Preached the sermon, Bloom Where You're Planted. And that every part of that sermon just spoke to us to stop running, stop trying to go somewhere else. bloom right where you're planted. And the things that agitate you, the things that upset you about where you are, that's why God put you there. Your purpose there is because you're supposed to bloom and change your community. So that was in November of 03. Unfortunately, the church that we were at was going through some real trouble, and they actually dissolved. Well, at that same conference where you preached, Bishop Veron Ash came up to me while he was preaching and started to prophesy. Now, I didn't know him from Adam at that point.
Yep.
I mean, we're in a building, 2,500 people at this conference, and he starts prophesying, "You've been called to pastor. Why are you running?" I'm like, oh my God, this just blew my mind. And because again, not speaking any bad about Baptist, but the tradition I grew up under, we weren't into a lot of prophecy and the spiritual gifts and things of that nature. But that was the journey God was taking me on at that time. So we drove to that conference from New Jersey to Florida. That ride home, that 17 and a half, 18 hours, was just hearing from God, talking. And my wife said it was confirming things she had already heard, but would never tell me. I just thought I was a musician. I wanted to play the organ, play the piano, and sing at somebody's church. That was good for me. But when she started speaking, confirming things that you had said and confirming things that Bishop Veron Ash had said, by the time we got home, we already had the name Restoration Station, because that's what God was calling us to do. Now, the truth is, I was only 2 years at that point. Yeah, that's 04. 2 years into my law office. But God said, I gave you what you wanted. Now I need you to give me what I want. Take care of my people. And decided to do both. As our church is about to celebrate 20 years in February, I just celebrated 21 years in September. September will be 21 years this September in my life. So all of this was going on all at the same time. And God is just his faithfulness. Again, as you say, perseverance. That looking back, it's crazy. I tell people, don't try this at home, boys and girls. This is not the normal path.
No, Bishop. What a story of and I'm gonna say this because this hits me. I'm gonna tell somebody, share this with somebody right now. Don't run from where you are.
Yeah.
This man just told us, Bishop Dorian Morgan just told us, bloom where you're planted, don't run. What if you and Dr. Joy would have ran, not say ran, but would have left that area where God said, wait a minute, you're supposed to be in that area. Think about all the people whose lives would not have been touched, changed because you stayed. So I'm telling somebody, stay where you're at, bloom where you're planted. This man's story is an example of what can happen if you just be faithful with little things. God's going to bless you with many things. So now, almost 20 years into the journey, I just want you to speak for a minute on what you have learned through all this, because your story is so amazing. You've changed locations how many times?
Wow. We're in our 7th location now.
Hear that again, people. 7 different locations. Moving a church. This ain't moving a house. This is moving a church of people 7 different times. Lawyer, accomplished author. When you talked about your books, just all these things you are doing and have done. Tell me how you have grown and teach us about capacity of how we think or how we operate, because you have to grow your capacity. Speak on that for a minute.
Absolutely. Capacity is key. In that Jesus told a story about someone when a king gave talents. One he gave 5, one he gave 2, one he gave 1. Obviously, we know the story. The guy, he did 1, he dug it in the back and hid his talent and didn't do anything with what his master had given him. The one who had 2 did whatever he had to do, and it grew to 4. And the one who had 5, it grew to 10. That's what I've watched God in my life is the more I'm willing to use what he gives me more. So I thought I was just a piano player for years. that was I and then all of a sudden he said, no, you sing and play. And then all of a sudden he said, can preach. I'm like, preach that, and I started preaching and then pastoring. And every time I give myself to God, every time I say, you know what, you're giving me these opportunities, open doors, talents, gifts, anointing, I'm going to use it. I'm not going to hide it. I'm going to put it to full use. And all of a sudden he starts opening up other things in me. It's just amazing. So that's what I tell people. Listen, use what God has given. Don't sit on it. If you're a singer, sing. If you're a worshiper, worship. If you're a preacher, preach. If you're a prayer warrior, then you need to get out and start praying for people. They need healing. If you're a business owner, go ahead and do it for God, and he'll open doors for you, because I'm a big believer in our gifts are bigger than the few that we think about in church. I think it's more than just speaking tongues or laying hands. There are anointed basketball players. There are anointed bakers. There are anointed, whatever God has given you, but do that thing, do it. And he will open up other things in you, as well as doors and opportunities around you. And that over these years, our capacity has grown to grow. Now, one thing I did hear from Dr. Sam Chan is that the key to growing your capacity is growing your capacity for pain.
Say that again. Say that again.
The key to growth is growing your capacity for pain. Not a sexy sermon, but it's true, because there are growing pains, and the more that you can handle, the more God can use you. I won't get into the whole birthing thing, but you mothers know, the more pain you can handle, you'll birth a life. And leadership, don't get upset because sometimes it hurts. God is stretching you to show you that you can love more. I mean, look at Jesus' example. He was up there saying, forgive us, while he was being crucified. That's the hugest capacity for pain, but also the other side, for the joy that was set on the other side of that. That's what keeps me going. So yeah, have people hurt me? Absolutely. Have I been, betrayed and all the other things that we go through? Absolutely. But it just increases my opportunity and capacity to love people more. And the more, as we're talking about, and we didn't get in very deep because some stuff might still have statute of limitations. But the more I look back at my life and see my mistakes and God still loving me, the more I can love others, even when they're in the middle of their mistakes.
No, you're teaching us. That is so good what you just said. Thank you for that. Well, before we close it up, how did you feel? What made you, give me the why of reaching out and seeing yourself go international a little bit with the church in Pakistan? What that teaches us also about our reach is further than we think. Yeah. So how'd you feel? What got you into that real quick?
Man, 2019, God really started speaking to me about my ministry. My ministry has been strong in my community, in my home. But then he took me to Acts chapter 1, verse 8, where he says, and when the Spirit comes upon you, you will be great witnesses of me, both in Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria, and the uttermost parts of the earth. And I think too many of us get caught in one place or another. And God is saying, no, I want you all over the place. So he started speaking to me that it's time for you to go global. He just kept saying global. And I'm like, I don't even know what it is. I don't know what to do with it. Now, certainly we got the internet, which is the World Wide Web. So we can touch people more easily in other countries than ever before. And so we were streaming. We've been streaming our church, and people started to reach out to me. Normally, I would just play them off. I wouldn't even say anything. But at one point, a group from Pakistan said, "We have been watching. We want to be connected. Would you just do Bible study for us?" So in January of 2020, I said, you know what? Fine. Let's do Bible study. And every Monday morning, because they are 9 hours ahead of us. So it's their Monday evening, is my Monday morning, like 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning. Every Monday, we started doing Bible study. And they would invite people from the village and all around. And the house, it started out with just 5 or 10, then it was like 15, 20, then it was 35. And I'm like, wow. And they started asking, well, we have an opportunity for a building, but to do it, we have to be labeled legally, because they're in Pakistan is an Islamic country, a lot of laws against Christianity and rules to keep you, from growing. But for them to have any building, they had to get proper government, approval, this, that, and the other. So I said, listen, let's do it. We started a church. It's called Friends of God Church of Pakistan. And it really exploded. They between you and I, they really need a new building, because they've outgrown that. But at this point, we're just going to keep trusting God and believing. And now we're in August now of 23. So it's been 3.5 years. I was on with them yesterday morning. I switched it to Tuesday. I should have never put it on Monday. Preachers, man. Monday morning, it's hard. It was hard getting up 6 o'clock. But now it's Tuesday mornings that I meet with them and do Bible study. And I have 2 pastors there who actually run their Sunday service. I've been just approached. I'm going to Ghana either at the end of this year. I think it just got pushed into the beginning of 24 for a church that wants me to cover them there. They're in their building project, and at the end of the year, the building should be finished. I'm going over to dedicate the building. I'm taking a team. Praise God, this time I'm taking a team with me.
Yes.
The beginning of this year, I got invited to Togo, Africa, to come do some work there. There's a couple churches in India that want me to be a part of their ministry. So God is doing what God is doing. And again, my encouragement to everyone, just say yes. God can do miraculous things with a willing spirit. And that's all. I've just determined, you know what, God, whatever it is, yes. Before you ask it, yes. You'll figure it out. And that's the story of my life at this point.
Thank you for sharing that. Now, again, reaching out, your capacity, you have taught us so much today. Thank you for being with us. I'm telling you, Bishop, powerful. Powerful what you have just shared. No, it's helped so many people. So again, everybody hearing this and watching this, don't limit yourself. Bishop Dorian Morgan's life is an example of what can happen when you don't limit yourself. And I love that last thing you said, just say yes to God. Yeah. So give us, out of everything you said, you taught so many different principles, but we all know we're not supposed to stop growing our life, our mentality, our influence. So just what sticks out to you, could share just 3 points, if it's words or whatever, that you can encourage somebody right now watching or listening. Hey, don't stop building your life. Don't stop growing. What are those 3 things come to your mind?
We at Restoration Station, we like the themes for the year. God told us that this year is the year positioned for success. And in that, there are some things that we have to learn to be positioned for success. We went to Matthew chapter 25, I think to verses 1 through 12 or so. It talks about 10 virgins, 5 that were a Bible called silly, that didn't make it in, 5 that did. And if you pay attention to what happened, the 5 that made it in, 1, they had the right preparation. Prepare yourself. Whether it's school, just now you can Google seminars, conferences, whatever it is that you have been called to, that thing that's burning inside of you, prepare for it. Get ready for it. If it's marriage, don't just jump into marriage. Start learning about it. Start talking to people that are married so that you get a real picture of what it's really about. Start studying the Word of God. Right preparation. Being in the right place at the right time matters. And very often that is connected to the right people as well. I'm big into mentorship. So I make sure I have mentors in my life. Bishop Poole, Bishop C. Wright, Bishop John Edmondson. I got a couple that I know I can reach out to. And if there's anything going on in my life, they speak into my life. They give me guidance. They give me, you need a mentor. And then you need to mentor others, because a lot of blessings in my life have come from watching other people succeed when I've helped them. So it's preparation, it's the people, and then the right posture, your heart posture. Never feel like you're too big, but don't let the enemy ever convince you you're ever too small either. God has something for you. And as long as you have the right posture of God, I am here to be used by you. I'm an empty vessel. Fill me up, use me to capacity and overflowing. You have the right posture, heart posture. David was a worshiper that just wanted to be in the presence of God. I mean, Abraham had full of faith and just whatever you said, these are postures. If you get yourself in the right posture in front of God, he'll take the least likely suspect and make them the most important person in one of his plans for the kingdom. So those are things that I want to encourage you to hold as you move forward.
That is so good. I'm going to steal that and preach that next time I preach. No, honestly, those points you just told us, preparation, the people, and the posture. Everybody get that, write that down. Thank you for sharing that. And so, Bishop, how can people follow you? Give us where you're at on social media.
Couple different ways. Obviously, you can go to the church website, which is restorationstation.org. You can go to my own personal page, dbmgloballlc.com. My name is Dorian Morgan, dbmgloballlc.com. Go there. If you need an attorney in the state of New Jersey, you can certainly go to dorianmorganlaw.com.
Yes. Yeah.
But those are the ways that you can get in touch with me. And listen, I just love to connect with you and just be a blessing in your life.
Awesome. I want to encourage everybody, again, listening or watching, to get his books, Another Chance. I love that, how to tap into God's grace, amazing grace. You just shared that about coming back story you have. And his book about marriage, My Journey to Becoming a Successful Husband. I need to get that book. So get that book. Follow Bishop Dorian Morgan. Thank you, Bishop, for being with us today. You have blessed so many people, and you have blessed my life. So thank you for joining us. Make sure you hit like and subscribe. We'll see you next week on the Other Side of the Story podcast. Have a good one.